It's like nothing I've ever seen, said the mayor of Casper, Wyoming. It's third world country stuff happening in Casper, Wyoming. Well, picking up 500 pounds of human excrement from addicted homeless individuals. Yeah, that does qualify as third world country stuff happening, doesn't it? Let's get into it. Here we go. Homeless destroy motel in Wyoming City. Leave about 500 pounds in feces on the streets, says the mayor. Who is weighing that? Yep, throw another pound on there. We only got 10 in this wheelbarrow. Let's get that up to 20. Get some more poop in there. Ugh, so gross. And that's what, so much of cleaning up the homelessness is that they just go wherever. It's such a toxic environment. I mean, people talk about, we really care about the environment. Well, if you did, you'd clean up every homeless encampment out there and square that all away. But we're just not doing that because they're so bad for the land. It's so bad. City in Wyoming has been overrun with an unprecedented homeless population that's destroyed a vacant motel and has left hundreds of pounds of feces across the area, according to its mayor. Mayor Bruce Nell detailed the destructive behavior of roughly 200 homeless people in Casper, Wyoming, who have been creating a mess throughout the streets and parks, as well as a closed motel where squatters left millions in property damage. They destroyed everything, he told Cowboy State Daily. It's horrible. Homeless people who squatted at the Econo Lodge Motel caused more damage than the flooding that initially closed the business down, Nell reportedly said. The property was condemned by the city, and the bank that owns the foreclosed business boarded it up. And then the homeless drug addicts, they just tear open an opening and they jump in there. And then, citizens have to call and complain. Hey, they're doing crazy stuff in the Econo Lodge. Can you send somebody over? Or it's on fire again. That's another common one, right? That's on fire. Can you send the fire department? So we're sending all of these resources to basically deal with a bunch of people that are on drugs. And that's what the vast majority of folks don't get. That these people aren't just down on their luck without a roof over their head. They are choosing to live a lifestyle like this, right? So this story from Casper, Wyoming, it kind of sounds like they're in the initial stages of dealing with what they're dealing with. It's like, okay, they're all whacked out on drugs, right? Because when you start to see it from that lens, then you're like, okay, this all makes sense. 500 pounds of poop. Why wouldn't you have that? They do not care what they do to the land, to the earth, to your city, to your streets, to your sidewalks. They don't care about any of that. They just care where they're going to get their next fix from. How are they going to pay for their next fix? That's all they care about. They could literally care about poop. It happens, right? It happens. I'm not going to worry about that. It was inhabitable and it was unsafe, Nell told Cowboy State Daily. Other homeless people are squatting in other abandoned properties in Casper that don't have water or electricity. They don't care. That's not their drill. Hey, got a roof? Yeah, got some of the windows still closed up. This is all good. It's free. You betcha. They don't care. As long as they have access to the drugs and they have a community that they can steal from, that's all they care about because that's all that they're doing. Their day is not situated around, all right, you taking the poop to the dumpster out front? No, we're not doing that, right? We just take a number 2 wherever you want. It's a toddler's paradise, right? You send your kid out there with no pants. It's good. It's fine, son. Let's go. It's all right. Do the best you can. Make it happen. I trust you. I think you got this one. It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's third world country stuff happening. We know very well we cannot litigate our way or arrest our way out of the problem, but our police need some teeth to start dealing with the squatting. He also told the news outlet, they're just causing so many problems. And so much of this has to do with the drugs that these folks are now taking. Remember when it used to be like heroin was just, it's that one guy, he's doing the heroin, he's doing the black tar, in a community, or there's, a small community of people. Here in the Pacific Northwest, it was the whole entire grunge industry. They were all, I mean, that's what, Seattle is, Portland are based on, is heroin. But now you got meth, now you got fentanyl, now you got a bunch of coke, and it's all super cheap coming right up through that southern border. Yeah. I mean, and then you've got folks that their lives are just, their lives are being staked on how they get their next fix. Meanwhile, city staff has been forced to scoop up about 500 pounds of human feces in Casper's downtown, where many homeless people loiter, the news outlet reported. I mean, this is San Francisco, how many years back that had been reported on? But now we're reaching Casper, Wyoming. I mean, this is progress, right? I mean, this is some progressive stuff going on here. You got progress. 500 pounds of poop on your streets, cleaning up. I mean, we're really moving along here as society. Some set up camp in local parks and bike paths while others sleep in their cars. Again, I mean, all right. Yeah, this is not new. This is just how it's done. But it's like, okay, for this community, it's like, oh, we got 200 people. You only got 200 people pooping and they did 500 pounds of poop. Hey, you're in good shape. You are in good shape. Because what collectively on an annual basis would city of San Francisco pick up? How many thousands of pounds, hundreds of thousands of pounds of human excrement would they pick up off the streets? I don't know. Don't know. Don't really want to know. You know what I mean? It's like just that image of, I'm not a real dog guy. I don't like dogs because dogs tear apart houses. And I spent my whole life, all right, yeah, I got to address the dog damage done to all your baseboards and your carpets torn out. You put a hole through that wall over there. Dealing with that kind of stuff. Dogs take a real, they hammer on houses. I know people love their pets and I know cats pee on things and do some damage, but dogs, especially bigger dogs, can really wreck a home. So you always see people following behind their big dog with a big bag of poop. And somebody needs to be hired to do that for the homeless, don't they? Yeah, poop scooper uppers. We need some of those folks. Yeah, maybe people from prison getting out on parole. Here's your job. It's not a pretty one. It's actually a pretty shitty job, so to speak. Some of the crime in Wyoming, in the city, Wyoming's second most populated city, can be tied to homeless people, Nell said. Oh, really? Let's talk about that. Why would that be? Oh, because drugs aren't free and they aren't employed and they need money for their drugs. Therefore, they're going to steal from your community. They're going to traffic in your community. They're going to do whatever it takes to get that next fix because these drugs are so strong. This is what we're doing. In desperate times, people do desperate things. And that's a justification for drug addiction right there. And unfortunately, we're the ones left having to deal with it, he said. Desperate times? No, these people are leading desperate lifestyles that need help, period. Right? That's the whole misnomer is that, these are hard times. No, they're not hard times. I mean, times come and go, right? Sometimes they're easier. These people don't work. These aren't hard times. These people don't work. They're not on the, they're not on the grid. These people live off the grid, essentially. They don't pay taxes. They're not contributing to society. So hard times, these are hard times that these folks chose. Because the rest of us are figuring out, even if there are hard times, how to make it go. It's like owning a couple of real estate companies going through the Great Recession. That's desperate times call for desperate measures. You just got to work your way through it. You don't give up and then start shooting yourself in the arm with whatever. But the justification for how this happens is you can't really come right out and say, most folks can't really come right out and say, well, yeah, they're making a choice. Because that's not what we're doing. They're making a choice to do the drugs. Therefore, this is what you got going on. So some people living on the streets come to Casper for a homeless shelter in the city. But when they're kicked out or denied entry, they never leave, Nell said. I mean, this is standard stuff. There's a certain part of the homeless population, whether substance abuse or a mental illness, that is getting them to where they don't want to conform to society's rules. 100%. You're getting warmer now with your interview with the Cowboy State Daily. You're getting warmer now. And that is the real crux of it, right? There's a certain part of the homeless population, vast majority, whether substance abuse or mental illness, or probably both, that is getting them to where they don't want to conform to society's rules. And that means they can poop wherever the F they want. And they do. And the city cleans up, behind them. And, desperate times call for desperate measures by desperate people. When they do that, they're not allowed to go in the shelter, which means they're just out and about in our community raising hell. At least somebody's calling it out, right? They're raising hell. Nobody wants to deal with them. But here in the Pacific Northwest, we give them tents. We give them sleeping bags. We give them food. We give them services. You name it. We give them you just live wherever you want until we sweep you. And then, because the reason we're sweeping is because, you had that murder, you had that sexual assault of that, that one woman. We've had instances of multiple fires. How many fires are set in these homeless encampments? I mean, the 911 call resources that are attributed to this stuff is just mind blowing, right? Casper is just one of the numerous cities facing a heartbreaking homeless problem, including the Big Apple, where more than 4,000 people didn't have a roof over their heads during a citywide tally in January. That was their point of time and count. But 4,000 people, it's way more than that. The whole homeless thing is a fluid situation. You don't catch somebody's walking around, they don't get counted. How many of those folks, just are on, those numbers are, to me, are always underreported. Not reporting it. The figure was nearly an 18% jump from 2022. The New York City shelter population surpassed 100,000 earlier this year as the city continues to take on a flood of arriving immigrants, illegal immigrants. So one of my earlier podcasts was Mayor Eric in New York City. He's getting worked up about how the system is being flooded with illegal immigrants. And their own homeless population is basically, you only got resources for so many. So, legit American citizens, whether they're whacked out on drugs or not, or whacked out on just, what life has thrown them, they're being displaced because we've got an open border and 10,000 immigrants a month, illegal immigrants a month, are being shipped to New York City. And it's just taking a real whack. And the mayor there is like, we can't deal with that. The city we know is ruined. Well, you were the one that declared New York City as a sanctuary city. What did you think would happen? Did you think that this would end well? Did you have infinite resources for infinite numbers of people to be shipped to your fair city, to the Big Apple? Did you think that was going to happen? No. And all of this stuff is going on at a time when most city budgets are really struggling. And it's because of the whole work from home thing. And you don't have all the operating businesses in your downtown core, which is a big percentage of the tax revenue most cities need to operate their budgets. So, poop people. No, we got to cut one of those 5 that are dedicated to cleaning up the poop on Casper, Wyoming streets. We got to cut one of those. We got to cut the bus system. We got to cut the maintenance of parks. We got to cut school system, whatever it is, to try and make that budget, because you've only got money for so much. So this kind of stuff, the amount of money that is spent on the addicted homeless population is outrageous. And, the way that we're handling it as a society is one of those things where after a while, we're going to have to recognize you can't just let people live willy-nilly, because picking up 500 pounds of poop, even though it's kind of it's a funny topical conversation. You hear about Casper, Wyoming? No, what happened? Homeless people on drugs left 500 pounds of poop for them to pick up. You're listening to this podcast, right? So, I mean, just the ridiculousness of all this it's just so crazy. And yet I don't think you've got a solution in sight. And Mayor of New York City basically came right out in front of all of his folks They were having a big city hall meeting, and this was a couple of days back. And he basically said, "Hey, I do not have, as long as that border is open, I do not have a solution for this." And folks that want a stronger immigration policy, want a stronger border, have been saying this forever. Hey, you can't just let people willy-nilly run through. Same thing to be said about the addicted homeless population. You can't just let people willy-nilly live wherever, because they're going to leave behind 500 pounds of poop. And that's literally the least of your concerns. Poop? Yeah, it's kind of disgusting. Yeah, it's pretty gross. You see the story of that woman who sprinted down the airplane while it was in flight, left a trail of diarrhea. Airplane had to return. Whoa, talk about a bad day. How was your flight, honey? Oh, not so good. You'll never believe what happened. Story goes viral and just, oh, yeah. Poop, you can deal with that. Stealing from communities, people being murdered, people being assaulted, whatever it is, all the stuff that goes along with the violence attributed to securing said money on a daily basis for their drugs. Yeah, that's the stuff that, you can't just let people live willy-nilly wherever, because they're not just living there. It comes with this lifestyle. It comes with the lifestyle where you're like, yeah, I don't really need to go to the bathroom anywhere. I'll just pop out of the tent and poop on the sidewalk, and it's all good. It's all good. Because that's happening everywhere. I mean, you just know it. And that's why the streets smell in areas where you've got homeless population. That's why the streets smell the way that they do. They stink. It's not good. It's not good. Pioneer Square in downtown Seattle. It's always been one of those areas. It's just been sketchy, right? Since the rebuilding of the city, since the Great Fire of whatever that was, it always just stinks. And now, right now, I was down there, a month ago? Maybe in July, maybe sometime a little bit after 4th of July. And that area just smells. And it's just like, all right, who let all the dogs out, right? To just piss on the sidewalk. It's just gross. But that's what you're working with. And with the drugs that these folks are taking, I mean, what else would you expect? And it just, meth. I don't know if you've heard or talked to anybody who's ever been on meth. Sometimes they don't make it to the porta potty. Yeah, not good. All right. With that thought, I'm going to leave you on this one. Thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Casper, Wyoming. Oh, yeah, it's a thing. Thanks again for being here. We'll catch up in the next one. Bye for now.